Okay, rejoining may help. Yes.
Yes, hopefully.
So, meanwhile, you can introduce.
Yes, sir.
Already introduced, no? Okay, okay.
Not introduce actually. Huh?
So the time he's
Okay,
taking introduce.
dear participants, right now we have a resource person from Vishwa Bharti University, Professor Saumya Chakrabarty, and he will talk about informal sector of India. And he is a renowned professor and he is in this field for last 25 years. He is professor of economics. He has published 3 books and approximately 46 papers in different journals and knowledge-based books and other areas. And he till now did 32 projects sanctioned by various agencies and awarded approximately 10 PhD scholars. So now session is handed over to him. He will take the session on the informal sector of India. Thank you. Now it is over to Professor Saumya Chakrabarty.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And visible also, this one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Slideshow?
Yes, sir. And now it is
Okay,
full
thank
screen.
you. Actually, very good afternoon. Very good afternoon, and I must thank Professor Bhartendra Singh for giving me this opportunity to speak to the teachers from different colleges and universities. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a great opportunity. I have been to Mizoram Central University twice, this year and also previous year to economics department. And this is nice that the dean has invited me to talk to the teachers and faculty members of different institutions, I hope. And I find that there are maybe around 30 participants. So may I start?
Yes, sir.
So thanks participants and thanks Professor Singh and also other organizers of this program. And as I mentioned that I will be talking about the informal sector of India, a parable. So basically any theory is a parable and some policy prescriptions I'll be talking about. Now, first of all, why the parable is needed? Because the understanding is that you need to have a theoretical framework to explain what is going on in the informal sector. And accordingly, it's like that. You have a disease, say you are having fever at this moment, I'm having some sort of fever and I had a medicine just a couple of hours back. So that is what we find as symptom. And then we have to understand what is the source of the symptom. And for me, it may be flu. And similarly, for informal sector, what are the problems? And then what is the symptom? What is the source of this problem called informal sector? Because we understand informal sector sometimes mostly as a problem area, because we know the condition is not good, especially in India. And I'm sorry for my voice and the interruptions. And so we need to know why this is happening, and that's why you need a parable. And according to that parable, according to that theoretical framework, according to that disease, we have to provide with medicines, so prescriptions. So first of all, why we are interested in the informal sector? Because there are many sectors, issues, and modern issues. So because college teachers and university teachers would love to have interesting topic for research, then why informal sector, or how informal sector could be an important topic? First of all, that is the question, that why it is important. Why should I research on the informal sector? Now in this slide, we are having share of informal employment in non-agriculture, share of informal employment in non-agriculture, And if we look at the shares, so these are different countries of Africa, Asia, Latin America, East Europe, and then if you can read the names like different countries, then we find India is here, this red one, oval, this one, and India is almost the largest or perhaps the largest, though it's a bit old, but still it's one of the largest. And this is Latin America. These are, and what is light blue? Light blue is informal sector, and what is dark blue? It is the informal employment in the formal sector. So if you consider both informal sector employment and informal employment in formal sector, in the formal sector, then India is the largest, 84.3%, at least in the last decade, and it has not changed largely. So share of informal employment in non-agriculture is huge, and here lies the relevance of the sector. If we are policy makers, we are not policy makers, we are teachers, but if we are supposed to also give answers to students and provide answers to the policy makers as well, then this area could be an important area, and we can have lots of research. It's going on, but still huge amount of research it's under research compared to Indian agriculture, obviously. So lots of scope of research, and it should be also taught in class in a way, in development classes, because this is huge. Just after agriculture, this is huge. And I have done this, what I have done, we have just arranged the slide in this way. Employment population ratios for informal sector, INFS is informal sector and formal sector, over per capita income for major Indian states, relevant data pooled over 2 rounds. So basically what we are doing, here we are arranging for per capita income across states over time. So basically it's pooled data. We have, say, major states, so maybe 20 major states. 20 major states pulled over 2 times, and we have pulled over 2 times 20 major states, and we have this diagram where you have employment population ratios for informal sector and formal sector. So this one is employment sector, informal sector employment as a share of population, and the lower one is formal manufacturing employment as a share of population. And this is very striking, contrary to general development economics idea that when there is increment or when there is progress, informal sector will vanish. That is the general perception that, okay, now situation is bad, informal sector is like waiting hall. I'm sorry. People might have come out of agriculture, but slowly it will be absorbed in the formal sector. Now, in between there is informal sector, and as things grow, as things progress, as economies progress, informal sector will slowly evaporate. It will be included into the formal sector, or it might develop. So that question is there. We will discuss that too later on. So 2 options: either it is included into the formal sector slowly, or it develops, it evolves. It may not be formalized, but it evolves, it grows. And we have taken the time period deliberately. Look at the time period. You may think that it's old, but it's very important, because after all, we are not exactly doing empiricism. We have some idea. We have in our back of our mind, we will also look at the parable, the theory, etc. So we have deliberately taken a period which is a high growth period for India. We know India grew fastest during this period. So in a fast growing period, if we arrange the states across over per capita income. So lowest per capita income to highest per capita income, pulling the data, then informal sector employment as a share of population is rising. So curiously, volume of informality is expanding in tandem with the so-called progress, which is generally the contrary to the general perception, Now the question is, what is happening within this informal sector? Because it might happen that, okay, people are coming to informal sector, but people are getting better off. And so what's the problem? Do these people gain by this relocation? We'll come to this little later because we have other things. So we have to look at that it might happen that people are coming out of agriculture and going into the informal sector. So, am I audible? Is it okay? Understandable? Audience?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You are audible.
Okay. So next, we have a peculiar situation where we are actually having similar thing, but looked at differently. So we have employment population ratio once again. Now it is not formal sector, informal sector, but agriculture informal sector over the same per capita income. And here we have managed to have 3 rounds data. Earlier also it could be done. The same thing would happen for that earlier diagram also, even if it's 2 rounds. It's 3 rounds, same thing. It's very interesting. Volume of informality is expanding in tandem with the so-called progress, as we've seen earlier. And then what is the problem with this expanding informal? That we discussed a minute back. That, okay, fine, informal sector is expanding, but it is after all this Aristotle kind of situation. Agriculture to informal sector is a waiting hall. And then slowly either informal sector will be incorporated into the formal sector. If it is not, no problem. Informal sector will itself evolve. So there will be an evolution of the informal sector. And so, no problem. So to answer that, we need to ask what is happening within this informal sector. Do these people gain via this relocation? The same old question. So this is very interesting, actually. So it's a very, what is that? Total, what is this table talking about? Total employment in million and workforce shares are in brackets in different sectors of India over time. And I have, first of all, this yellow mark area is the high growth period, and then this period also. We haven't deliberately taken this post-COVID because, you know, PLFS, and this is NSSO and other sources. Because this combination of PLFS and NSSO, there are some issues, and COVID, shock, etc. These I am not going into now, because what is happening in the India informal sector is not the key question here. Key question is, in general, forget about India, a country which is developing very fast, 2000, 2010, a very large country, growing very fast, unable to handle the problem of informal sector or able to handle the problem of informal sector. And accordingly, it is a kind of laboratory experiment we are doing. We will have scientific knowledge which we can utilize elsewhere. That, okay, if growth happens, whether in a big country, maybe India, maybe Brazil, what is happening there, and accordingly we can have our prescriptions. So it's not that which year now what is happening in which area, in which locality, who is doing what. These are not, but it's a macro political economy. Basically, this lecture is you can brand it as macroeconomics, obviously, and macro political economy to some extent. It's not the micro informal sector we're talking about. We'll see the macro framework. So agriculture, if we look at this, and then if we concentrate on organized manufacturing, and if we concentrate on others, that is mostly organized service sector, these 3 areas. And what are these? Basically, these numbers are total employment in different segments and workforce share in different sectors of India. And what are the different sectors? Agriculture, total informal sector divided into self-employment and establishment. Establishment is, those who do not know, higher labor. That is better off informal sector. So rural self-employment, rural establishment, urban self-employment, urban establishment. Rural petty production, rural better off doing the informal sector. Urban self-employment, urban better off, a bit better off. And organized manufacturing, construction, which is mostly informal, and this is organized services. And we are deliberately focusing on the growth, high growth. So it's basically our focus is to look at, to understand the trends, not to have empirically just look at the trends, which is basically done for all empirical. Empirical research is not done for empiricism. It is done for theoretical understanding. Now, what is going on? And what are the probabilities, possibilities that can happen elsewhere as well? So if you look at this, what is happening, it's very interesting. Agriculture share is falling. You see 61, 51, 45. So share of agriculture is falling. Everyone knows nowadays, a child knows this. Organized manufacturing also may not be falling, but it's not very high. It's low. It's not falling, but it's very low. And organized service also, it's not very fantastic. Like that, 13 to 11, it came down. This is very interesting. Growth period, the share of organized services came down. Now, at this moment, if we look at organized services, I was looking at, actually my friends were looking at that, and my collaborators and friends, but there is some problem we have to think about it. So let us focus on the growth period. Now, this is actually, this was falling, and if you don't take this one, if you look at this 15-year period, still it's not that rosy. On the contrary, so what is happening here? In the high growth period for India, data shows that reduction in agricultural employment is not getting replenished by organized sectors, services and manufacturing. So people are going out of agriculture, they're unable to get engaged in organized service and organized manufacturing mostly. Some absorption, obviously, from the data, obviously. But where are they going then? But where were they going then during the high growth period? During the high growth period, the main thing is this total informal sector. You see, 19 to 24, its movement was quite high, at least in the growth period, 5%. And this construction was also 5% increase. So here it was roughly 10% fall. Here it's roughly 5%. Here it's roughly 5% increase. Within brackets, we have 5%. And the whole numbers are millions. So total employment, sectoral, once again. So 5 plus 5 is almost balanced. So very interesting. People are coming out of agriculture, moving into moving into informal sector and construction, which is mostly petty informal construction, along with MGNRG, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program. I'm sorry. Am I audible? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So instead, people exiting agriculture are entering into the informal sector, including informal construction, either as self-employed or in establishments. Establishments means hired labor, using hired labor. And self-employment means, self-employed. An establishment means I'm an owner. I work with 2-3 people in a, say, petty manufacturing unit. And there I also work. So there is very little dissociation between, it's not like capitalist worker, capitalist doing some. So I'm doing managerial work maybe, but also doing manual work. So there's very little separation. And you see, if you go down, separation is less and less. So and huge, fantastic, as we are seeing, percentage-wise, it's great. Now, instead of people, so what is the issue here is this. Combining all these, people are coming out of agriculture and then they are mainly moving into for different types of informal sector, construction, informal construction, etc. That is mostly what was going on, at least during that 15 years of the 21st century in India and many other countries. You can check. Now the question is, okay, fine, people are going out, but it may be good. Again, Aristotle, the people are coming out of agriculture and waiting hall is informal sector, and slowly they will be either absorbed into the formal sector or their condition will improve. There is a very famous article which came up most probably in 2009, where Professor Pranab Bardhan is arguing that there is a tortuous transition. Tortuous. Things are moving like serpentine road that we find in Mizoram and many other places. It is a fantastic place. Okay. So, but it is not so rosy actually. So if you look at agriculture, what we are doing here, I'm sorry, gross value added per worker in rupees in 2017-18 prices. And same years, huge growth took place. Huge means substantial. Yes, huge compared to global standard, huge growth rate. This is actually quoted from my own. This is my collaborator Kundu, and this and there are some other works as well. If the participants mail me later on, I can send all those things. And now also my collaborators and we are working together on these things. So agriculture, what is this gross value added? You can call it partial labor productivity as a proxy for per capita income. So it was 56,000, 83,000, 1,15,000 per annum. So it's very bad actually. In terms of 17-18 prices, in 15-16 situation, and this is combining all sorts of agriculture. Large, small, marginal, medium, whatever. And then if you look at informal, it's very striking, 56, 57,000. So less than 5,000 per month. 83.72. This is striking, 1,15,87. So people are moving out of agriculture. But instead of going upward in terms of standard of living or income, call it out standard of living, income, because here income we are focusing on, we are going down. We are not going upward like Harry Stoddard's story. So something is happening here. People are going out of agriculture. Are they coming out voluntarily? Are they coming out voluntarily? That is the question. Can anyone come out voluntarily to an inferior option? People might argue like this. They say there are 4 brothers in a family. 3 people are, when the situation of agriculture is so bad that 1 person, 3 people are there. It's basically a classic case of disguised unemployment. The 4th person goes for a work, but people might say, oh, that is adding to family. Good, but I am going to an inferior option. That is the important thing. The situation is like this. So total output is 100. Say 3 brothers are getting 33. Now I am going somewhere. So 4 brothers are getting 25 out of 100 rupees out of my plot of land. If the 4th brother goes out, then it may be sister also, then it would be 15 rupees. So total family income is 150. Fine, but the point is, I'm leaving this earlier thing and going to an inferior option. When can it happen? Clear, simple, when the situation is bad. It's not something which is attracting me, whether rosy, fantastic, attractive option, I'm going to some better place. It's not like that. I'm sorry, just quickly. Just 1 minute, sorry. Extremely sorry. My health condition is really bad. Okay, so I'm extremely sorry. So this is very interesting actually, and construction also, it may be very good compared to this agriculture, but just look at the other areas, organized manufacturing, organized services. Compared to that, construction is so bad. And here there is formal construction as well. So formal plus informal, because it is very difficult to dissociate formal, informal construction, given the data. At least whatever I could not do. Maybe other people will do. Sorry. So what I find is that compared to 10,36,000, it's just 2,21,000. So this situation is also very bad. So, and we have seen already earlier through all the slides that people are moving out of agriculture and going into construction and maybe informal sector. And it is not that they are going to better options. These are inferior options, maybe adding to family. But we can't say definitely that it is a better option. We can't say it is an inferior option. Adding to family income, okay. But why should I go to, say I leave university job and then I go to a place where I get half, whatever it is. When do I go there? when my university job becomes very suffocating, when I can't work here because of many reasons. So people are not gaining much in terms of via relocation from agriculture to informal. So that is very important. This is very interesting. Data reveals the presence. Oh my God. Hello. Am I audible? Am I audible? Hello. Am I audible? Hello. Hello. Audience.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
And visible also?
Yes, visible, sir. Yes, visible.
Okay.
Sometimes I make my mic mute, no, because phone calls are coming. So I have
No,
to
it's all right.
restrict
It's
them.
all right.
Yes,
Audience,
okay.
audience, is it okay? It's all right. I understand. It's not possible. Absolutely. It's not possible for me also many times. I understand. But audience, is it all audible? Is it visible and audible?
For audience also it is audible, because sometimes some participant, they intentionally or unintentionally make their mic on, so sounds may come. That's why
Oh, acha,
from
sorry,
our
sorry,
side
sorry.
all
I'm
the
sorry. I'm
audience
sorry.
are
I'm sorry.
being
Okay.
mute. Okay.
Okay. Actually, suddenly my screen showed that your internet connection is unstable. That's why I was worried. People are not gaining much in terms of earnings via this relocation from agriculture to informal sector. So it's not that rosy. And so what we find, people in a high growth period coming out of agriculture, and unfortunately they are unable to get engaged in millions, not engaged in a good option, in inferior options. So what's going on in India, that is very important. As social scientists, as students of social science, we should be curious about that. We should be vocal about that. What's going on in the name of development, in the name of progress? What's going on? Because that is our job. Our job as literate people, thinking minds, we should raise our voice. So here, that data reveals the presence of heterogeneity. So data reveals the presence of heterogeneity or dualism. That is another aspect I'm bringing in. Within the informal sector. So it's people are moving out of agriculture to informal sector, rather down. And that is not homogeneous, because if you look at these areas like establishment, look at the cursor, then you will find that there are some good areas, bright spots as well in the informal sector, within the construction sector as well. So between self-employed and establishment in terms of GDP per worker. So the story is very interesting. People are coming out of agriculture, but it's not one stream. There are at least two streams. One is going to inferior option. One stream is moving towards a better option. So we would think that two types of forces are working. One is from agriculture, I'm going downward, I'm going upward. Two people are moving in two different directions, but of course, downward is much more, given the size, as we have seen. Size-wise, downward movement is relevant for a very large section of population. And if we look at this old data, very old data, a bit old, but once again, high growth period, a growth period post-liberalization, and that is very uncanny actually. This is surprising. Labor productivity of self-employed in urban informal manufacturing or unorganized manufacturing, then self-employed part, if we take, and if we have all the states here, my God, if you look at Andhra Pradesh, these 3 periods, labor productivity is falling, Bihar falling, Gujarat is falling, Karnataka falling, Haryana also a bit falling overall. Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, it's overall, there is a fluctuation. Then if you come to Tamil Nadu, it's falling. I'm sorry. So even the developed states, what is going on during this development period? Why there are 5? Because previously we had 2 bars and then 3 bars, 95, 2001, 2006. And previously we had data for 80s and early 90s. So those 2 are forming the first 2 bars when it was rising, and then the bars are falling. Means if you look at urban self-employment, manufacturing, urban manufacturing, self-employment, urban manufacturing, self-employment, 95 to 2006. And of that 2001, 2006, high growth, at least 2006 around high growth period, the labor productivity is falling. This is very surprising. So urban self-employment was losing during that period of high growth. And during this period, actually, MGNREGP was introduced. You can remember, maybe to counter this, maybe, I don't know, maybe. And if you look at services, so that was manufacturing, this is services, informal services, self-employed. Once again, we have 2 rounds data for the growth period, high growth period, and similar kind of Gujarat, it's not rising at least. Then you have, if you have Karnataka, this is Karnataka, this is Kerala. And then this is Maharashtra. Maharashtra, it's falling. So same thing. So services, manufacturing, during the first 5 years of the 21st century, labor productivity, partial labor productivity was falling when we started to grow at a very high rate. So the empirical evidence shows that, so introducing informal sector in theory. So what we can understand from theory, that what's going on, my goodness, dualism within the informal. So very interesting, let us go back a bit. Lewis told us that agriculture to industry, people will come and dualism will vanish. So this agriculture industry dualism will vanish. People will come from agriculture to industry. Agriculture, size of agriculture will squeeze, and there will be a structural transformation within the, it's not agriculture, traditional sector, including agriculture, non-agriculture. So traditional, modern, that is the Lewisian category. So traditional to modern, people will come, modern will be bigger, and not only that, traditional will transform into modern. So whole of the economy will have structural transformation towards modernization, a comprehensive modernization. So, but here we found that people are coming out of agriculture, going to different types of informal sector. So first, formal, informal dualism is being created. Second, within the informal sector, dualism is being created. So it's getting fractured and more fractured and more fractured. Instead of homogenization, instead of movement from dualism to unilism or something like that, unitary system, we are having more and more dualism, different types of dualism. So formal, informal dualism, earlier it was agriculture formal, now it's agriculture informal formal, and then it's agriculture better of informal, worse of informal, formal. So getting fractured, economy getting fractured. Empirical evidence shows that the structural transformation anticipated by the great researchers is not experienced by India. The presence of a huge space of informal sector is challenging the very idea of structural transformation. This challenge is identified in the existing literature critically. So literature also addressed this. This is not that we are doing it now, definitely not. Completely two types of literature. One is mainstream, which is neoclassical, and this is the political economy left literature. Political economy, this is left political economy, you can call it. Then Aristotle was telling, demand-driven pooled migration based on wage differential between modern sector and traditional sector. Modern sector unable to absorb the migrated labor fully creates unemployment who stayed back to be absorbed in the modern sector in future. Waiting room consists of informal sector workers and unemployed. So there is a waiting room. So people are coming out with a better expectation, with some expectation, expected higher expected wage. So it's kind of, but there is some misinformation or asymmetric, actually asymmetric information, not perfect information. And so they have to wait and then slowly they might be absorbed. So there is a kind of pull migration. But Harvey, David Harvey, the famous geographer and political scientist, political economist, and Professor Kullan Shanna, they propose a different route that for unhindered supply of resources for modern sector, labor and means of labor in traditional sector has to be dissociated. First of all, what is happening? Place modern sector is growing, it is absorbing lots of resources, taking away resources, jal, jungle, and jameen away from the traditional sector. So people are getting dispossessed out of those. And this process famously termed by Harvey as accumulation by disposition. And this is supply-driven push migration for survival. So people are pushed out because of this absorption of resource, but not labor, because the process of modernization is nowadays highly capital intensive, even if it is not robotic. Everywhere it's not robotized. It's highly capital intensive. And this creates a vast wasteland for the excluded mass of people, the development, we call it development refugees or whatever. A space outside the circuit of capital that is not even able to enter into the waiting hall. This is the understanding of Harvey Shannal kind of work. So two types of theory we have. One, from agriculture, people are pulled, and in between they are stuck up, limbo, informal sector. Another theory, people are pushed because of crisis in agriculture. Two types of crisis, fundamentally. One is resource drained out, and that's why crisis. Another is cost of production is rising, but price support is being removed, and cost of production because of water table depletion, water resource depletion, other resource depletion, fertilizer cost, etc., the cost of production is rising. So the net income in agriculture is squeezing, and so the people are getting excluded. The people are getting evicted from agriculture. They are pushed out. So two types of possibilities. Now, given this, we can have a structure like this. And my collaborators have actually helped me a lot in designing this nice slide. So, Indian informal sector received positions. We have two received positions, Aristodaro and Harvey. So, pull, Aristodaro pull, and push from Harvey. And if we look at the possibilities, then people are moving out of traditional sector, taking Lewisian connotation, Lewisian language or connotations, and modern sector demand. Another part is very nicely done. So, oh my God, no internet connection is not stable. So, waiting hall of Aristodaro Fields model is this informal sector and unemployed mass, and those who are pushed out, as discussed by, analyzed, focused by Harvey, Shannal, and many others. That is wasteland. People are going to wasteland. Surplus population. Shannal's famous coinage, surplus population, which is redundant for capital accumulation. It's not needed. There was huge surplus population in Europe when Europe industrialized. And that surplus population was thrown out to North America, South America, Australia, and a bit to Africa. But here we don't have any option. We can't throw them out into Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea. 4 continents were captured, and the surplus population was thrown to, we forget most of the times, especially the economists, anthropologists, social scientists, other sociologists, political scientists, especially sociologists. They might have anthropologists, they have in their discourses very much acceptance of these things. But we know in our school history books, but economists forget, unfortunately. The fantastic amount of labor was thrown out to these continents to devastate, to just pulverize these populations. In Australia, Africa, especially Latin America, horrible, and North America and Australia. Not that much in Africa, but to some extent in Africa. So this is the Westland, but that is not possible now. So we have the Westland out of the circuit of capital, the surplus population, which is not needed for modern sector at all. Pushed migration via the process of ABD, accumulation by disposition. So now the question is why it is happening, the 2 types of this. What is the source of this? So is it accident? Is it accident that people are coming out of traditional sector and going into modern sector, or going into informal sector, or going into unemployed, becoming unemployed, or going into the Westland, doing whatever they can do, whatever petty things they can do. In your locality, you will find there is a small shop. Then after a couple of months, another shop. And if you look at your specific economics, then you won't be able to understand how the market is being shared. So the demand component for each and every shop is almost nothing, less than the break-even, or rather less than shutdown. Still they are going on, because these are survival strategies. These are not profit strategies. These are survival strategies. So Westland need economy, need-based strategies of Harvey and Shandal discourse. So here comes the parable. So we come to the parable, and then we have a couple of slides for prescription. So there is a traditional sector, we know, agriculture, and modern use of resource. So agriculture has different uses like infrastructure, modern agriculture, modern industry. So this is modern use of resource, and this is traditional use of resource. Petty agriculture, petty production, petty use of resource. It was there in Lewis also. So generic resource, this is. And then the capitalistic formal sector. And then there is a deep relationship between these 2 sectors. Actually, the capitalistic formal sector is embedded on modern use of resource. So if you have modern use of resource, based on that, you have the factories, big houses, corporates, etc. And then there is a modern informal sector that you can call it establishment, the better ones. Hello? Modern informal
Yes,
sector
you are
positively linked with the formal sector, and will so positively linked with the formal sector. That is my understanding. And petty informal sector that is dependent on, deeply embedded on traditional resources. Immeasurable we will see later. These 2 capitalized words we will see later. So this part is embedded on traditional resources, and this part is embedded on modern resources. And this part is also embedded on traditional resources. So when capitalistic formal sector grows, I repeat, when capitalistic formal sector grows, modern use of resource must grow. More of roads, more of railways, more of infrastructure, more of space, geography, more of resources. So there has to be resource conversion, and the traditional part must squeeze, because total resource is constant. Now, if you take 100 years, it might be different. But after all, if you take 10, 20 years, then it's constrained. Sometimes it's binding constraint. And so there is migration via push and pull. How push people are pushed out of this sector, traditional sector. And why pull? Because formal sector drags modern informal sector, there is evolution, and that pulls the people up to modern sector. But there is pushed migration towards petty informal sector. So what is happening? Formal sector is expanding, it is drawing resources. Traditional sector is squeezing, suffocating. And there are price adjustments, etc. as well. Price, that is profit getting squeezed in agriculture, agrarian crisis, we know. But that is also there. So because of this resource pool, things are getting worse, and people are pushed out. Now, it's only the fortunate few are able to get engaged in the modern informal sector. Those who have network, urban network, or maybe simple social network, financial network, literacy, education, skill, they can move to better off positions, and others are thrown into the ghettos, rural ghettos, urban ghettos. So petty informal sector becomes bigger in size, but per capita wise they are in a bad situation, because particular cake is being eaten up, is being utilized by a larger number of people who are being pushed out from the traditional sector. So there is a kind of immiseration we have seen. So kind of not only dualism, it's a dynamic thing. So the formal sector is growing, modern informal sector is growing, traditional informal sector, which is much larger, is getting suffocated, or at least remaining at the same level, or at least we could say getting better off maybe by a very small amount. So the inequality is rising across the whole economy. Growth has not been inclusive. It's Mumbai, all three photos are from Mumbai. Global city powerhouse, pulling people, precarious threshold, and workhouse is American jail, waiting for growth. Modernization has failed to deliver to the disadvantaged. Advantage: if I have skill, if I'm educated, social network, if I have education, if I have financial network, I can sometimes get the benefits of growth. Otherwise, thrown into the ghettos. So despite modern sector expansion, there is reproduction of the fractured structure of the economy. Therefore, it is crucial to move beyond the conventional industrialization policies. So this kind of industrialization, modernization policy is not good if you are interested in employment and quality employment. Quality of employment is important. If I am doing anything, say, that is not good quality. Quality of employment and standard of living, if you look at, then you have to have a different strategy. This modernization everywhere, bandwagon going on, and people might call me generally, first instant, oh, this is a mad person talking about something else. But if you look at the history very keenly, last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and much beyond that, then this kind of modernization is not helping so far as en masse development, etc. is concerned. Maybe slowly trickle-down effect is taking place for some, but inequality is rising hugely. Inequality, maybe some trickle-down is going on, but inequality is growing and growing and growing. This could be an explanation for growing inequality in India. Newer forms of dualism are being regenerated. So deepening dualism instead of mitigating dualism. Therefore, it is crucial to move beyond conventional industrialization policies and look for an alternative development strategy. So considering this context, what would constitute a comprehensive labor-focused policy? So we have to have a labor-focused strategy. We have to have Am I audible? I was
Yes, sir.
disconnected.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was disconnected.
But it's
Is it
showing
okay
here
now?
connected. You are connected, sir.
Okay, okay. Okay, sorry. So this scenario is not good, was not good pre-COVID. So growth was there for 10, 15 years. It was post-liberalization, we had a kind of feel-good situation. Everybody was feeling good. Yes, middle class, upper middle class, they have benefited hugely, hugely. And just like the better offs are getting better off, even more better off. Betterment is only for them. But we are forgetting that newer kinds of dualism, deepening of dualism, spreading of dualism, proliferation of dualism is taking place. So the old kind of policy, old kind of policy may not be working. That old Lewisian, there is no kind of intentionally people are doing this. If you look at Lewis, it's so powerful theory that everybody is even today chasing behind Lewis, despite Amartya Sen's intervention in 1980s, development which way now, 81, 82, 83 maybe, that famous economic journal article where he is saying through global data that despite industrialization, capital accumulation, labor mobilization, and despite significant development of state and market institutions, if you call something as development, then where is development? The famous Amartya Sen's article, Development Which Way Now. So there itself he intervened and told us that this kind of process may bring in growth, per capita income, heavy industrialization, high rate of capital accumulation, labor mobilization from rural to urban, etc., etc. But that does not mean development. That is the Nobel lecture, or I'm sorry, the Nobel cited article publication along with others. So we have to have a different policy strategy. And in that context came lockdown, COVID, and its aftermath. It's a very bad situation. Now, what is to be done for the informal economy? Already it was so bad. We knew, you can remember, I suppose, just before COVID, there were a couple of articles in EPW where we recognized that employment level is at its lowest post-independent India. So this was the scenario, and in that context came, and then I add these things, rules of depending dualism, etc. So in that context comes COVID, and then what is to be done? So you can't go by the same process of modernization driven, that is Lewisian path, may not be working. So we have to think about different paths, think about different models. And this is my understanding, not mine, many people are working.
Okay, sir, no
Has it
problem. You
come?
are connected. You are
Has it
connected,
come?
sir. You are connected, okay?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. So basically, আরে এরা কি পাগল নাকি গো? তুমি যখন মানে তুমি যখন একটা ধরো তুমি তোমার খাও, তখন আমি তোমায় ডিস্টার্ব করি? তোমার মাথা খারাপ নাকি গো? তুমি আর কাউকে কাজ করবে না, চপ বন্ধ করে দাও। মাথা খারাপ এদের। Why the students disturbing? Clusters enjoy synergic and also scale effects. So this is very important. Clusters enjoy synergic effects. Synergic effect means you have all many petty firms together. So when they are together, they can exchange ideas, they can exchange tools, they can exchange designs, they can just talk, and through talking, they can evolve new ideas, new designs, new techniques. They can share finance, they can share input market, they can share output market, they can bargain in the output. And that will give them a huge externality, you can call it definitely, external benefit. So synergy means in physics 2 plus or mathematics or physics, it's 2 plus 2 is greater than 4. So if you add, you have more of something like two particles combine and you have energy, additional energy. So it's like that. When all the forms are together, clustered, then there is synergic effect. It's not only the forms are separate, they are behaving together. If there are 10 forms, it's not only 10, the power is say 20, like 20 forms. And also scale producers, there is scale effect, like large scale production. They are as if having large scale effects like ACZ, special economic zones, via sharing of tangible and intangible resources, land sharing, resource sharing, labor sharing, instrument sharing, idea sharing, and the culture, sharing of the same cultural space. That is very important. I cannot be I can be, say, with training, I can say become a researcher to some extent of this. As a teacher, I'm a teacher. Now I can be a researcher. As a researcher, I can be a teacher. Or I can be to some extent with some kind of training policymakers, but I won't be able to weave so easily. It's not very easy at all. I cannot be a good potter immediately. It's not possible. It passes through the knowledge, the skills, the movement of fingers. This pass through generations of evolution. So sharing of intangible resources and collective capture of markets, that I told you, collective capture of input and output markets, despite being governed by the principles of private ownership. So it's not cooperative. Private, I have my private firm, but in a cluster. So if I have a big order, I can share with my people. If I have to buy a hefty amount, so indivisibility problem is there. Say I need a big furnace. Then I can't buy it. I can't construct it. It's not needed also for me all the time. So I will have a furnace in the middle of the cluster. And then the furnace will be utilized through a roster by all the participants. And these are I'm extremely sorry for all sorts of disturbances. Hence,
No problem,
clusters
no
could
issue.
offer the tiny enterprises an edge in handling their conflicts and complementarities with global capital. So, big capital having scale economies, having enormous productivity, having enormous power in the market, the clusters can combat with that and can participate in the global market, international market, effectively, get rewards. And simultaneously, there is space for petty producers. So many of the benefits of big production and many of the big benefits of micro production and real trickle down, a real process of trickle down. So it's marriage of development and growth, because cluster means unfurling of energy, and so possibility of growth is also there through that. And there are many examples across the globe. Now, corporate-driven thinking process might want us to believe that this is a false story, but this is not a false story. Despite all these issues, these are surviving. Despite, and I have some first-hand experience with my collaborators and friends who go deep inside such clusters, stay there, work with those people, and they are actually taking out that knowledge, not only my collaborators and friends, but also many people across this whole country and global south. We know this is a real possibility. And how can we forget Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore and their strategies? These are not old-fashioned. These are coming out once again because of this devastation of resources, devastation of environment, devastation in terms of employment, devastation in terms of inequality, devastation in terms of dispossession, exclusion. Those old fellas, those old ideas are becoming like gold. We have to accept it, because there are, and we have to fight for that, raise our voices. So how to engender cluster-based development? What are the different strategies? 1 or 2 slides left. Needs careful mapping of regions, districts based on certain economic and other intangible cultural aspects. Economic, tangible, and intangible cultural aspects. Nowadays, United Nations is talking about intangible cultural heritage in a huge way. We are not listening to that, especially the economists. The mainstream ones are especially not interested at all. Indigenous skill formation along with fostering social capital to reap the benefits out of agglomeration economies, to turn the clusters into endogenous extremely sorry for horrible this kind of situation. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Cluster
No problem, sir.
Studies must be conducted by the government, NGO, and other institutions to identify the strengths and challenges of clusters. And institutions, universities also should take care of these things. University can work. Sriniketan, constructed by Rabindranath Tagore, and which is still there, roaring institution, Sriniketan, many of us know, is especially for rural reconstruction, rural development. That is the time that is focusing on cluster. If you come to this university, go to Sriniketan, you will find that even today, maybe feeble, but he has a great role to play. Adequate action or interventions, direct government support that ensures availability of cheap raw materials, credit, and other necessary inputs. These are of course necessary. Provide adequate support to the clusters, such as artisan training institutes, workshops, common facility centers, as I talked about, like a furnace, one furnace, healthcare centers, financial centers, I might have forgotten. Financial centers for a cluster, you need to have banking facilities, financial inclusion, technology, space, resource, market, government support for market access, trade fairs. That is very important. So these are input oriented, supply side, and this is demand side. And this is very important, land user rights rather than land transfer right to informal units. So if you come together, you are given a space, you are given the right to use this space, not to sell the space. Unlike Hernando de Soto's proposition of giving property rights to the small units, that will actually eventually lead to concentration of land, just like Green Revolution. The petty ones will be wiped out and the larger ones become even larger. And that we did with an eye, at least an eye on capitalistic agriculture. But here the idea is different. So not land ownership or selling rights, but user rights. If you don't use, out. If you shut down your business for most of the time in a year, as per NSSO, say, terminology, then you are out. You are not allowed there. Somebody else will come in. So these are just some of the instances of collaboration. Here, handloom, people are collaborating. It's a neighborhood. It's not anybody's house. You need to have long space. This is a sharing by women producing mixed metal utensils and ornaments and artifacts. And you see, this is once again something related to weaving. This is something related to once again that mixed metal thing. So dokra we call it, and this is your weaving. And so these are the instances. These are my collaborators. They have collected this, and they are doing research intensively in these places. So this is fine. This is rosy storytelling. This is last slide. So we were talking about some rosy things. How will it be actually operationalized? How can it be operationalized? Is it not utopia? There lies our role as so-called thinking people. Policy and politics. Policy is not devoid of politics, and economics or any subject. Theory is not devoid of policy. Policy is not devoid of politics. Especially theory is couched in politics. Life, livelihood, and dignity of labor have to be secured. This is axiomatic. Rights. Life, livelihood, and dignity of labor have to be secured. Discourse of rights. You cannot play with this. You cannot throw people into Bay of Bengal. As we had thrown people out to Australia or North America and killed the Aborigines and so-called Red Indians. Not only because it is a basic responsibility of the state, but more importantly, it's a moral and natural right of the toiling multitude. So it's a moral and natural right, a natural right of the toiling multitude, even more glaringly present post-COVID, because during COVID we saw that there was lockdown and everything stopped. So even today, 21st century, it is labor that is running the globe. It is running the globe. Even today, even now, it is running the globe. It is labor. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A cup of tea for an alien person. I'm sorry. So toiling multitude, we have seen that if they don't work, all science, technology, robotics gone. And what was the situation because of this lockdown? However, if state fails, it may fail. It may have a different politics, policy, ideology altogether different. These issues should be taken care of, taken up as crucial political agenda by the working class in general. This is very different from the standard left politics of revolution, etc., capturing state power. Maybe in the long run, state power may be captured, maybe. But in the short run or medium run, you have to reconstruct, you have to at least fight for reconstruction, because everything getting devastated and it is becoming a dole-driven economy. So evicted, dole. Through doles are surviving this horrible situation. So that has to be, so dole is bad. It's not like the dole is the last option. Why don't we go for better options? And working class has that role of reconstruction, at least proposing reconstruction, fighting for reconstruction, and working for reconstruction, developing voice for reconstruction. And we, being part of working class, should also raise our voices. Thank you. I'm extremely sorry. I don't think a lot of things actually could go to that side of the world, that part of the world. So, but it's technology, problem of technology mainly, and other disturbances. I'm very sorry for all the disturbances. I don't know whether you could, especially the participants, could get anything out of this lecture.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, there are 4 questions in question answer box. Okay, that we may take up now.
Okay.
Sir, first question is, does the data permit to present the construction figures separately for the formal and informal sector?
No, we tried a lot. We are trying actually. We are writing 2 books at this moment for big publishers. And that's why I'm telling that, because we had to toil a lot. We had to, because these are really very good, big ones. But we toiled a lot. We are toiling a lot, but not yet able to satisfactorily dissociate these two. We can do, but if it is not, because we can't play with data, it's not good. It's ethically wrong. We are not yet able to, but maybe it's to some extent possible, not yet able to. We are trying our best. And other people have also tried, but it's a fuzzy area. It's not that very clear, at least to me.
Sir, next question by Ashok Sharma, that is, how reliable is NSSO data for understanding employment trends in India's informal sector?
Right. I will answer this in a different way. So I have been to the university in a different country in the West, a very, very big university, very famous, etc. So there, many people came from the global south, whole of the global south. And Brazilians, Argentinians, Africans, South Africans, and BRICS, almost BRICS, except Russia maybe. But 1 or 2 from Russia maybe. So long back. And they were telling, my God, how much fantastic data you have. because I was asking about Brazilian data, especially Brazilian labor force data, sectoral labor force, like we have. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can disaggregate, and we have disaggregated it to the lowest level using unit level data, like firm level data. So this is just this. When I was searching for that long back, I didn't know anything. And they told me, my God, you have this data. We don't have anything like that. And they sent me something which is bullshit. So which is of no use. And only World Bank data, this data, that data, aggregated data you have. This is fantastic data that we have from NSSO. And that if you combine your micro work with macro work, that is NSSO data with your field observation, it's not that there is a, because I have been trying to do both a bit. There's no big disjuncture, that it's completely different. It's not like that. The stories are even, one of my collaborators, she is now going to revisiting a field after COVID. Post-COVID. And then she's finding peculiar stories, peculiar situation, the case. And then if you look at current PLFS thing, I don't find it's, at least, I don't know that much. But NSSO sampling, etc. And if you go to unit level, I tell you, I do theoretical frameworks, I do political economy. I'm not an empirical economist. But so far as I understand, NSSO data is not that bad, especially compared to the global south scenario. And we are unfortunately not having this data with that vigor we used to have earlier. We need to have that.
Sir, another question with reference to modern industrialization, that unable to absorb pulled out and pushed out laborer. So question is, does that mean it is time to think more about the development of rural industries, as Gandhi said?
Pardon me, I could not follow. Once again, please. I'm sorry, once again, please.
Does that means it is the time to think more about the development of rural industries?
Rural industries?
Yes.
Yes, that is cluster means not only urban, rural. Am I right? Am I right if I say that question is actually asking the possibility of rural industrialization? Yes, definitely rural industrialization, urban industrialization, but cluster-based industrialization. Clustered industrialization of petty farms and petty farms, FARMS and FIRMS, so that you have the synergic effects. There is no, what I feel, no strategy, no policy, no defense for these people, and soon these people will be all dependent on doles. Productivity, knowledge, everything will be lost. So we have to immediately move into action. And different governments are taking up these strategies as well. Maybe we are not having a kind of consensus across the country or across intellectuals, across the teachers, researchers, but we have to think about it. I don't know whether I could address this question.
Sir, another few questions are there, so I am taking two more. Okay. So first one, this is in chat box. There is, what are the steps one has to take up to eradicate unemployment, and is education system which we follow to be held responsible?
Yes, unemployment, that is actually, I tried to answer this question of unemployment through this cluster-based industrialization. So that is my answer to problem of unemployment, because people are getting engaged. This is labor intensive, labor focused, and education, it's important. This is very interesting. I have been trained to discuss global issues, but I am not trained to discuss local issues, local problems, local technology. So education has to be seriously modified, and the focus is because most of the people will be working in the locality with local knowledge, local understanding, local technology, local tools. So education must have this. Not only now we are all moving bandwagon, global. Not everybody will fly and leave this country. Not possible. Maybe wishful. We have all the dreams of going to the West, many of us. But it's absolutely not possible. And you know, across the globe, certain changes are coming up and so much anger against immigration. So you have to think local as well along with global. You have to know global, fine, but you have to know very well the local, and education system is top heavy. So it has to be proper, that is, it has to have proper legs. It has to stand on two legs properly on the ground, to know the ground first of all. It's a very big system and the lives of the people. And most of our students, many of our students, barring aside the best universities, best colleges, barring aside those things, other colleges, university students would go for localized jobs, non-governmental, personal, private, localized jobs. They need to have, it's not only vocational training, the whole understanding has to be defined. Local has to be appreciated, local has to be respected. Okay.
Okay, sir. Last question. Before last question, there is a request. Lots of participants asking for PPT. So you may send your PPT to Professor Bhartendu in his email. Okay.
Okay.
So that will be fine.
Okay.
Sir,
but problem is that some of the slides are yet to come through publications. So maybe some of the slides I cannot share. Some of the slides, but those are having these references. I will definitely send that. No problem.
Okay. Okay.
Some
sir,
of the slides are actually meant for, I can tell you, some of the slides are meant for Ajim Premji University. Some of the slides are meant for Palgrave Macmillan. Some of the slides, that is data, etc., meant for Oxford. So those I can't, but otherwise I will send you, having reference, etc.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, and after say maybe next year I'll be able to send everything.
Okay. Sir, last question. Hope it's not fully clear, but hope it is related to unemployment. The question is, e-commerce can play a good role in this area, hopefully regarding unemployment. So
App-based, I mentioned app-based cluster for services like this. Say, in my city, small city, may not be, Aizawl is not the right, Aizawl is big city and then it's a lot of activity. And Aizawl is also, if you talk about Aizawl, and in Aizawl, if you have all the plumbers, all the electricians, all the food delivery people, not the Zomato or Swiggy, the local food delivery people are clustered through apps. I have app, through app I can call my plumber. I can see if they are registered through municipalities or corporations. They are clustered by using this technology. Then it is basically the softwares and in a sense it's e-commerce. So and it's absolutely possible for manufacturing also, petty manufacturing, local apps. If local municipality produces a local app instead of Amazon, and then that through that app I can buy everything which is coming out of Mizoram. So I can buy that. And that app is combining clustering local producers, services as well as manufacturing. It's doable. Like it's doable, it's possible. Like we say, we have this what you call this গাড়ি র্যাপটাকে কি বলে কি জানো? Uber. You have Uber, you have Ola. Why don't you have an app for Aizol where tourists, the businessmen, they through that app can book local cars. If there is Ola, there is Uber, there is something from Aizol. So something from something or something, and it's there. One app, our government, state government is Gotidhara. Is one Gotidhara app, which is parallel to Uber and Ola. It's Gotidhara, West Bengal government's app, through which, and there is Pothosathi app, through which you can book your cab. So these are possible, and these are the things we are talking about. It's not that old-fashioned things. And Tagore especially would talk about this. Yes, it does not mean that new technology, it has to be accepted, but not displacing, not at the cost of life.
Sir, last question. Actually, participant has written twice, one in question box and once in chat box. That's why I want to take it. That what is the reason behind falling urban productivity?
Falling urban productivity, that I really
Yes.
don't. Falling urban productivity. Urban productivity is falling. Urban formal manufacturing.
It's a long question. That is falling productivity of urban self-employment.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Actually, this is macro data. So what is happening? It's getting disguised unemployment, intensification of disguised unemployment. One farm in Aizol city, there is a small farm. A person is running it. In agricultural backyard, in rural hinterland, in villages, maybe people are unable to survive. So he or she goes to that farm through social network, maybe family network. Then two people are working there. And total output is rising, but per capita output is falling. So it's because of congestion. People are pushed out of agriculture, going into an informal sector. I am having a shop, petty shop. Now my brother comes from rural hinterland and he starts helping me. So earlier I was producing 100. Now I am producing 150, but with two people. So per capita income now, our productivity now is 75. Exactly, this is the story. Congestion in urban slums. And now what is going on, you know that, many of us, because one of my collaborators, he is working on slums. Slums are being relocated to outside of the society, of the city, periphery of the city. So it's very peculiar things are going on. So getting engaged, people are getting engaged in slums. And total output may be increasing, but per capita income is falling because of congestion. This is my hunch, my parable.
Thank you, sir. Bhartendu sir, would you like to say something? Sir, please.
Already a long session for question answer was there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, our participants are asking questions and sir has responded already. So nothing additional from my side. Only thing I can say, thanks a lot for you, sir, for sparing your time and responding to each and every question whatever posed to you. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Was it meaningful? I don't know.
Yeah, it was. It is, sir. If questions are coming, it simply means that people have taken interest.
Yes.
That is the indicator.
And at the background, I find the fantastic auditorium. I love to be there, and this pathway
yes.
in front of it, I can remember. Actually,
Yes.
you know, I have fallen in love with your university.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's a really nice place, and not only the nature, but also people are very good, very
Yes.
nice.
True. Very true, sir.
I know Professor Giri Babu
Uh-huh.
from economics department,
Yes, yes, yes.
and other professors, also senior lady professors,
Yeah, Lapui,
young
Professor Lapui,
professors, James, and other professors are also Professor Mohanty,
Mohan.
and so they are very nice people,
Yes.
very nice intellectuals. Thank you,
Okay,
and
thank
thanks
you.
for giving me this opportunity.
Sure, sir. Thanks, sir.
Okay, so shall I quit?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, bye, goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Namaskar, sir. So, dear friends,
Okay, participants. So you may join tomorrow morning sharp at 10.